Good afternoon, Mr. Sheridan. Paul Sheridan is here with me. I'm Nancy Perkins, and we're going to talk a little bit about his upcoming course, and not only about his course, but what got him engaged and involved with senior college. You and Karen, your wife, Karen Gleason, have been really two of the more active couples in senior college. Karen serves on curriculum. She was on special events. She's taught courses. She's been a host. She's been part of the tech committee. And you have taught a number of courses over the years, and two of which I have taken, and I can highly recommend. But this summer, you're teaching a course on photography and what is new, what is old, and what can be better.
Right.
So,
That's the title.
I guess I'm going to start. I really want to know how you came to Belfast. That's important.
How we came to Belfast? Well, retirement was approaching. I had done enough work at my college that I could keep my health plan. Let's put it that way. I could retire at the youngest age possible, 55. Karen wanted to continue in her career as a social worker. She was just finishing up a third master's degree. And we were thinking about, we wanted to go north. We like it cooler. Anywhere from Providence, Rhode Island to Halifax, Nova Scotia. Well, it turns out that the Canadians have pretty strict immigration rules, and you have to show up with money in the bank and bilingual if you're going to work for the government, that kind of thing. So we said, all right, let's where else? And Karen's family had spent time back to her grandparents, who were artists, in and around Maine, specifically Tennant's Harbor, south of Rockland, and and we ourselves came up here often enough in summer. And when we were thinking of coming, someone said, well, it's lovely here in August. And we said, yeah, it is. Said, why don't you check us in January? So semester break for a couple of years in a row, we came up in January. Hotel rates were very cheap. And we investigated the area. We found out we liked it winter or summer. Then the question is where in Maine, because it's a big state. And we knew we wanted coast. But also important to us, I think, was a co-op, a food co-op. Food is important. We were big cooperators. I had been president of the Park Slope Food Co-op, which at the time was the biggest retail co-op in the country. So we had been deeply involved in that movement, and we wanted to be able to continue it. So we looked up on the web, as you do, where the co-ops were located in Maine. We started down in Portland. Unfortunately, I think by about a month, we missed Portland. Portland at that point had closed. This was 2005, 2006. Portland had closed up. It failed. That's something that co-ops do. They go under for various reasons, real estate, internal debates, whatever. So we said, okay, we're going up the coast, and we checked out Rockland. We checked out Belfast, of course. There was one in Blue Hill. And the one we didn't get to was Norway, inland, because we wanted to be on the coast. And just thinking about all of them, we said, Belfast seems about right. It's a pretty big size. The place is nice. The people are good, an art scene. And, we just talk to people. And then it turns out a friend of a friend, we knew a friend of a friend who got us involved. I'll just mention her name. Ellen Sinclair got us involved in senior college too. She says, you should also check out, it's really nice when you move to a place to have a local advisor, as it were. And she kind of showed us the lay of the land, introduced to people like Mike Hurley and such. So anyhow, Belfast was it, probably because of the co-op. What's the phrase of Maine, the way life should be.
Right.
Belfast there's a cup, I think Mike Hurley's Colonial Theater has a cup that says the reason it is, or the way reason it is. And I said, what really makes it is the co-op for us. So there's like a 3-level saying there, you might say. That's why we're in Maine anyhow.
Okay, well, that sort of explains it. But your background, you were from New York, you lived in New York City.
Right. We were both born in New York City. Karen grew up north of New York City in Westchester County, the suburbs. I was originally in Queens, Archie Bunker country, Astoria, New York, actually. And but for college, my family was very working class. I was the only, not the only one, but the first in my whole family of grandparents and 20 or 30 cousins to actually graduate college. Others went to college, but I graduated first, it seems. But I went to college at Brooklyn College, so I had to get a passport because, going from Queens, it's like going across the Potomac from Virginia to Maryland. You need a passport. But I moved to Brooklyn because my grandmother had a basement with this little apartment that I could live in. My father convinced me, he said, look, we're living here in a housing projects. I had two sisters, two more brothers on the way. When I was in college, my youngest brothers were born. So it's a long stretch of a family, extended family. And he says, why don't you just go live in your grandmother's for this? Because you're going to be able to study and think. And I did. And I became a Brooklynite. And that would have been about, 1969 or so. And the good thing about Brooklyn too was, I went to parochial school. I'm a recovering Catholic, 12 years of Catholic school. But speaking of parochial, it got me out of, Archie Bunker country, if you want to call it that. I got to meet Jews, to be very frank. I met people of a different mindset, not totally, they were Judeo-Christian, and very much we have the same values, but a different way of looking at the world. And that got me, I think it changed my life in part. I was very glad to have done it. And because that, I got into art because I had been in the camera club in high school. I was never very good at math, but I liked sciences. I liked history and such, but somehow cameras I wanted to make art, but I couldn't draw. I was never very good at the pencil and paper thing, but I wanted to make pictures. So the camera club got me there. And then when I got to college, I said, they got to declare a major. I go, major? Oh my gosh, I got to pick something. So photography became it. But before that, you have to do art. It's part of the art department, as it were. Which Brooklyn College is a very good college. It still is, because it's a liberal arts college. So they require you, the curriculum requires you you must take some of everything. You could be specifically pre-med, a lot of science, a lot of math, but you got to take some Shakespeare, you got to take some art, you got to take some phys ed.
I feel this is a real lacking in colleges today. Somebody, I'm trying to think where I saw it. So much passes my desk, but someone here in Maine is doing a talk on interdisciplinary education. And, whether you're working in a company or you're studying to be a teacher, it's still good to have a well-rounded education that you can do more than just that one tunnel vision thing that you quote majored in. I mean, I majored in history and in English, but I took psychology and sociology and biology and this and drama and art history. And, I took it all in a liberal arts women's college. And I don't regret it for a minute, because I know a little about a lot and not a lot about a little. Yes.
That's what I say about myself. I'm a jack of all trades and a master of one. Yes. One thing that I'm very good at is black and white chemical photography. Put in the red light, put the picture in the tray of chemicals. Nobody wants that. It's not relevant anymore. Well, that plus teaching it, I was good at that. The students though still like it. Students are interested in that, it turns out.
Oh, I think it's fascinating. And I'm always regret that I find the digital camera is making photography almost throwaway. It's not putting it where it should be in an art situation. I can take great photos with my little phone. I mean, they really look great. I can blow them up and map them, and people think, oh boy, she knows what she's doing. I don't know anything what I'm doing. It's just luck. It's just I pointed the thing and hit it. And real photography is not that. It's skill and it's training and it's more to it. So and that's what I think you're a great teacher of. I learned an awful lot about photography in your class. What in this class is going to, what are the high points that the photographers you're going to, without revealing the class?
I knew you were going to put me on the spot.
No.
The reality is I don't know. The way I did photography, the photography I have done is street photography. You walk, you look, you look, you walk, you walk, you look, you stand and wait. You take a picture, you walk, you look, you just wait, you take a picture. You do 36 of those. You develop the film, you make a contact sheet with all little postage stamps, pictures. You look through them with your crayon and your magnifying lens, and you maybe find 2 or 3 that you like. And you make a smallish print that you put up on a wall. This was the old style of, my process anyhow. Many people the same way. It's a little like, what it is, it's the difference between, say a clay sculptor who starts with nothing and takes clay and adds it and builds from nothing to something, or a painter, blank canvas, or a writer, a blank sheet of paper, and you put stuff upon it and build it forward. Where I'm closer, I'm going to compare myself to Michelangelo, because I think he was asked this question, like, Senor Michelangelo, how do you make such a Piete? He says, I just chip away at everything that doesn't look like Christ and his mother. Well, it's a reductive process, and that's what I do. I see 1 million images in a day. I take 36 of them, well, back in the day, of roll of film, and then from that you find out the one picture. So the reason I tell you that is because my class is similar. It takes about 2 years to do this class and the other class I do on film, alternative war films, and I collect pictures and people, photographers of interest, and articles and exhibit notices. When I lived in New York City, these kinds of things it was part of the process. Of course, I was in and around students and other artists too, but there were galleries. You'd walk to galleries. There was a gallery district. That's kind of like doesn't exist in some ways almost anymore, except for certain kinds of art, whether it's a performance art or very large art, where people are selling you big objects. So I can't tell you exactly which ones, because I would be lying. It's 4 weeks away, Nancy. and I'm still really, I have many more people that I'm going to do for the 4 classes, 2 hours each. But what, well, just to review the title, what's new, what's old, and what's better. Old is sometimes because I come across, obituary notices, and I say, oh, he died, she died. We shouldn't forget that person. I remember that. I learned her in school, or I heard about what he did for Life magazine in the war, that kind of stuff, and we should try to remember these people. But also, what happens is you know the picture, but you don't know the person, or sometimes the story behind the picture. So I find that kind of fascinating, the history part of it too. So that's the old stuff. The new could be things like discoveries. Occasionally, there are discoveries of, suitcases full of negatives from the Spanish Civil War, that kind of thing, of people who died in the Civil War or later because they were war photographers. But oh my gosh, there's stuff in here that we don't know what could they have photographed, and they're all curled up and having sat in a basement in Mexico or something. They're going to take a couple of years to stretch out and flatten, and someone has to go through them. But also new is up and coming people, because one of the things about the gallery world is you'd see younger photographers. And also when I would see artists, students and graduate students who were, entering the art world, and the kind of things they were thinking about, which was somewhat different. My training, I was 20, 30, 40 years behind them. But that's okay, because that's the nature of the world. Youth brings us forward and progresses us, hopefully. So that keeps my thumb in the pie, as it were. I'm forcing myself to go out and look at things. And also what I'm trying to do is look at things that maybe isn't just street photography. I admit that's my main interest in what I did and have done. But I always try to include some portraits, photography, landscape, architecture. And I even push my envelope to fashion photography, because fashion photography has been a big part of photography's history. I don't always like everything you can see, but it's certainly interesting and new, and they have budgets, often. Go to Australia on the beach and do such and such. Oh, someone's can pay them to do that. Yeah. So anyway, and then the better part was, we'll stop at times, and people will stop me in the class and ask me, Paul, that one, how did they do that? Why is that perspective that way? I don't understand. Where are we, and where was the photographer standing when this was done? Or why is it so dark? Does that bother you that it's dark? And I'll just explain maybe the emotion that the photographer is trying to get, besides the technical issues that sometimes, you can't overcome. So we'll look at, and hopefully people from that can get an appreciation of what a photographer does, as you say, the training. And by the way, not everyone is trained as a photographer. People have certainly become good photographers on the job, as it were, on self-trained. Training is just moves things along faster and gives you influences. But also, so for appreciating other photographers, but if you make photographs yourself, like even the little cell phone, let me tell you, this is a box camera. You remember the Brownie box camera?
Right.
There's not much you can do with these. You can't control a lot. There are no f-stops and shutter speeds. But it's so good by itself that it gives you 90% of the time pretty darn good pictures right out of the box, as it were. You don't have to worry about wasting film and money and whatever. So I think digital, in some ways, like everything, there's pros and cons. Yeah.
Well, I went to a wedding this weekend and it was just constant. The pictures just came and came, came and came. And, I know the bride and groom are going to return and they're going to have 500 shots to go through and look at and, cull through them, which is sort of, I guess, what you do when you teach. You have this world out there and you have to pick and choose what you're going to show. But it's amazing to me that people will go up on Facebook and post 75 pictures, of a high school graduation. Like, nobody,
Yeah.
you have that because you have this little thing, where if you had the Brownie or you had a Nikon or just an old fashioned camera, you'd be lucky to have one picture. I guess that's it. So you can
Less
record
is more
everything.
sometimes. Yes, less is
Yeah,
more.
less is sometimes greatly more. But so anyway, this is a 6-week course, or
It's a 4-week course. I set it at 2 hours. We'll take a little break in the middle. Usually, well, senior college. Oh, and I heard the good news, or maybe I shouldn't mention yet. But we're going to be at the Hutchinson Center. But when we were at the Hutchinson Center, it was set as a 2-hour course, but we'd have this break in the middle. Effectively between getting in and getting settled and whatever, we'd have about an hour and a half of content. And that's what I hope to get out of this, is an hour and a half of content, plus question time, of course, comments. I will
I
be
think you'll find
prepared with
everybody will have
content.
a lot of questions, because we haven't really Zoom does not lend itself to that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've done, my film course with Zoom, and then I did a little driver
I
safety,
enjoyed it.
which I'll do again.
The
But
film course is great
it's,
on Zoom.
yeah, it's got its limitations in that respect. And the other thing it does, actually for my class, what I do when I was in the Hutchinson Center, we dim the lights and we show slides or show film clips.
Right.
So it wasn't that different. But the difference would be, say, in the
Well,
photo class,
and you talk.
right, yeah, and people would bring things in, their photographs, their old camera, their father's camera, their father's photographs. One, I won't mention names, but I think
Well, no, but I will. Did you know who his father was before that?
No, he was in my class, Stephen Porter.
That
And he
was
says, I'd like to bring some of my father's photo. I go, oh, well, who's your father? He says, Elliot Porter. I looked down at my class list. I go, Steve Porter, Elliot Porter, the Sierra Club photographer. Oh my gosh, really? And he brought in prints, and it was beautiful.
That really was an incredible moment. When
and that we couldn't do as well on Zoom, right? That kind of stuff. Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so we can all sign up very quickly. You actually can sign up now. I just signed up for an evening class, and I don't think I'm going to take your class again, because I think I'll be out of town. But I have enjoyed. Actually, I've taken 3 of your classes. I've got a pretty good record. And you'll also be doing a driver's training course for seniors in the fall, right?
Right, just a short hour, 1 hour brown bag, kind of give an overview of what your choices are to bring yourself up to snuff in driving as you age, basically is what it is. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think we're really happy that the Hutchinson Center is back, and I know your class will be really, really. Now, wait a minute. The photography class will be on Zoom, correct?
Yes, that's right. Right, and it's kind of an experiment almost to have something other than a one-day class. Usually, Sandy Cirillo is doing an art class on a one-day. She's doing it live in the Hutchinson Center, so that'll be good. She's our first explorer into virgin territory, as it were, Lewis and Clark. Sandy Cirillo.
Out there.
But she's good for her. But I'm going to be doing this just because, and I'm doing it in an evening. I think this is your encouragement, because we have members who are working, and maybe they would want to, be able to get home by 4.
Is a good time, and we're going to get a press release out about this and about the other courses. But I can't thank you enough for your willingness to keep with us and keep going, and the loan of your wife to the effort is awfully nice too. So.
Well, we encourage each other back and forth, kind of,
and that's good.
We'll shove a little pull.
I know you do the library film. Is that starting up again? Or
well, we keep waiting. We certainly have our last program that we didn't get to show in what would have been April 2020. But we have the selection there. I think it was sort of like a review of remakes, because Hollywood remakes older films, and we choose which we think are the best. Sometimes it was the original, and sometimes it was the remake is the better one. Well, anyhow, but we're looking forward to it. But the library has to, decide. I guess it's the city or the librarians have to decide when they're comfortable to be bringing people in regularly to the Abbott room. But it could be soon.
Good. All right. Well, I can't thank you enough for
Oh,
agreeing.
thank you for the opportunity.
Actually, it's been roughly, I don't think Al is going to us because we've got a lot of good stuff right there. So thank you for joining, and it should be up shortly on the webpage.